I don't want to get ahead of myself, but like obviously Deadpool, just projects like that kind of just prove that you can be wrong about your assumptions around, oh, well, something's not bankable because it's got a certain rating or a certain genre. It's just like, no, like there's a fan base for everyone. You just got to get it in front of the right people instead of looking at the wrong test audience as being the presumption.
William Goldman, nobody knows anything. I mean, there were like 5 jokes that Fox wanted me to cut out of the Deadpool script the first time we pitched it, because they weren't funny or they didn't work or they were over the line. And every one of those jokes were in the trailer that we showed at Comic-Con that, brought the house down. And it does just, it is a nice bit of validation to feel like, yeah, I thought that would work, and it did. I'm sure there's lots of other things that I've been prevented from doing that I thought were great that would fail, that would have failed had I been allowed, but I thought that was great.
Obviously, Deadpool, I'd love to touch on. I was actually working at Inns Boulevard at the time, so I remember being there during the whole leak, which was a fun to kind of see all the craziness around it. But like just in more of a broad overview, I mean, how the preliminary kind of conversation around Deadpool happened, and obviously doing the test, then the leak being greenlit, and just the whole experience. Like, what was that whole thing like?
Well, it was pretty exciting and pretty tortuous too. We did that test. Drew Crivello, that guy I mentioned that went to Terminator with me, he's still a friend. He just is the showrunner on We Work that just came out. But he was an executive at Fox at the time. I really liked him, and he came down to try and get me to help with another Fox project, and we got to talking, and he eventually said, "Hey, there's a small film called Deadpool. Would you? I can't get you on a big film, but I think maybe you could direct something like that." And I'm like, "Oh, I read the script. It's amazing." And so I had to meet Ryan, and I had to meet Lauren Schuler Donner and meet with the studio. And I think the only reason I got a shot at it was because nobody gave a shit. At that point, they didn't think it was going to happen ever. And so, why not let somebody else give it a shot? And so we did that test as a proof of concept, and they really liked it. They really went over well. And we did a lot of work on the script with Rhett and Paul and Ryan, and we did that mocap test. And then it gets to that point where you've got a script, a budget, a test, and you present it to the studio, and they passed. And they were very polite and respectful about it. And then for the next 5 years, I would write an email a month and said, please, please, I'll wash your car, I'll come over to the lot, whatever. And they would always say, we respect your passion, Tim, but we don't think the movie is going to happen right now. And it was nice that they answered my emails. But eventually, it was a couple things that happened sort of all at once that made Deadpool happen. One was the leak, which I won't really talk about, but I didn't do it, but I know who did, and I'm very grateful to them for doing it, and I will pay them back somehow, someday. And their rationale for doing it was very good. But anyway, the that happened, and it kind of broke the internet. Emma Watts really came around to the notion that R-rated movies could be an area where Fox could kind of own the landscape, different from Disney and Warner Brothers, who weren't ready to do R-rated movies at the time. Emma's a very smart and savvy studio executive, and she saw that as an opportunity. And then Simon Kinberg came on board, and he was kind of the Marvel gatekeeper, and Simon was great. Through all that time, Rhett and Paul, the writers, they thought Deadpool was the best script they'd ever made. And we would scheme constantly, the three of us, to go and try, what if we did this? What if, I got Jim Cameron to write an email to Jim Giannopoulos to get us a chance to write a PG-13 script as a Hail Mary. But it was Rhett and Paul who said, look, we know Simon Kinberg. What if we brought him on, and what if we wrote him and tried to get him involved? And that's what they did. And Simon read the script because they're friends with Rhett and Paul, and he loved it and said he'd help. And it was kind of all of those things coming together. And then I got a call from Emma Watts and said, hey, come over to the studio. We're going to date your movie. Let's have a meeting. We're going to date your movie. I'm like, what does that mean? Date? I don't even know what that means. And she said, Tim, it means we're making a fucking movie. And I said, oh, okay, great. I'll be right over. But when the leak happened, I was just coming back from Comic-Con. I just gotten off the train, and my phone starts blowing up and saying, dude, the Deadpool test is leaked. It's leaked. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I was horrified because I thought Fox was going to put me in jail. But they didn't. And there we are. But it was great. I mean, if all that hadn't happened at the same time, who knows if it would happen. Very lucky.
I still remember, I think you said this to the team, but it was like Fox Security said that, shit, it hit the fan, but really cool test, by the way.
Well, the funny thing was that, the first one that leaked was a really bad. It looked like it had come off somebody's monitor, which in fact it had. And then a really nice high-res thing was leaked, and Fox Security said, Mr. Miller, do you know anything about this high-res version of this? And I'm like, I don't know anything about it. And they said, well, it's coming from your server, so you should know something about it. And then what I found out was there was a bunch of people that had a link to it, agents, various people's agents around, and studio people, and somebody, once the initial link happened, sent that link out that then got distributed. I don't know who did that, but then it was out there in all its HD glory. It was cool. I was always really proud of that test.
Yeah. What was it like wrapping the film and knowing that you had accomplished creating your first feature?
I'm not really good at celebrating those moments. It was certainly an emotional moment with the crew, because you're in a foxhole with people for quite a while. It's making a movie is very intense, and it felt great, but I had nothing to compare it to, right? You don't have any idea if you fucked it up or did something really good, or completely your career is over. So it's kind of there's a lot of warm emotional feelings, but I didn't feel like, yes, I nailed it. There's not a day I walked off any film set, Terminator or Deadpool, and thought I did a good job. Every day I just think fuck, I should have got that shot, or how did I miss that moment, or man, that took too long to do that setup. But I did feel like I had a good experience with the crew, and like I said, I always ask how I'm doing, could I do better, what should I do. I remember Emma Watts called I don't know, maybe 40 days into the shoot, and I thought, first time director, they're going to be all over my ass from what you hear, but they really left us alone. And Emma called checking in, and I said, is there anything I could be doing better? Is there anything? And she's like, the dailies look great and there's no drama, and from what I hear, everyone's happy, so just keep doing what you're doing, which is fucking great. But anyway, I was so lucky to get that chance, and the film just went really well. Everybody was terrific.